13. In the last lesson I was talking about how to relax your body. Now in this lesson I want to show you guys how to relax a more important part. Relaxing your body is important, but relaxing your mind is very, very important because everything comes from our mind. So we need to learn how to relax our body but also relax our mind. So we're going to look over a couple techniques here. Now if you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to skip over this, this might be one of the more important lessons out of them all because this will give you a mindset to basically progress in piano faster, easier, with less effort. Difficulty is all state of mind. So yeah, let's, if you're interested in how to play things easier, I'd suggest you continue. Okay, one of the first things I want to address is that little voice inside the back of your head. You know who I'm talking about. I hear the little voice inside my head too. I just don't hear, 1,000 little voices, because, yeah. Anyway, we tend not to talk about the voices we hear inside our head because then people think, oh, you must be crazy then. But anyway, it's the little voice that when you do something, it tells you, oh, this is going to be really hard, you can't do that, you can't do that, this is going to be too hard for you, you shouldn't be doing this, or, oh, look how difficult this is, you're never going to get anywhere in piano. All those little things, those are not truth. It's just fear. So that's one of the very first things you need to let go of is fear of failure. What is failure? What is success? It's what we make it, isn't it? So whatever we believe is succeeding is what we feel is succeeding. So if we feel that playing those chords wrong to other people is succeeding, then we're going to think that's succeeding as well. Now I'm not saying that you should just go out there and start playing things wrong and think, oh, I'm doing so great. That's not what I'm after here. The point is to be not afraid to get things wrong. Instead, use everything you do wrong not to be, oh, now I suck, I'm just so bad. Instead of thinking that, think, okay, so this can teach me something if I stop and look and see what it's trying to teach me. So whenever you do something badly, you go, now how could I have done that better? That is a very, very important phrase to ask yourself all the time. How can I make this better? How can I make this better? Now, if you don't ever ask yourself how to make things better, right, how are they ever going to get better, right? There's two ways. Either you ask yourself how to get it better and you consciously seek it out and you hunt for that way to get it better, or you stumble on it by accident. Now say there's a table, and this is before there's 4 legs on a table. Say there's the 3-legged table, and then every time you pushed on the wrong end, then the table fell over. And people just, this table, it just isn't steady, but at least it's up, right? It's up there. And it just kept falling and falling and falling, and no one ever thought, now how could I make this 3-legged table better? How could I make it more secure? No one ever thought that until the day came along where in the house they're working away, they have their meal or whatever, and they're sitting down, and then there's a stump of wood or something off to the side, and then someone sneezes and the table starts falling over, and they're like, no, our food! And then it just catches, before it falls too far, it just goes dunk, and it lands on the piece of wood, and they're like, oh, a 4-legged table! Now, that might sound silly to you, but think of it this way. That's how you stumble upon something to make it better. It's by accident. It's just by chance. And that's how most people leave things up to when they're trying to play piano. They're like, well, I'll just keep playing and hopefully I'll sound better one day. And they just, kind of hope that they'll accidentally discover a better way to play something. Now, what I'm telling you is that it's not about accidentally discovering it. Sometimes that helps. Like, sometimes it's going to happen because it's an accident. You can't stop an accident. You can't try to make an accident happen. So what you're going to try to do is just keep letting those accidents happen. But at the same time, when something goes wrong, instead of getting down on yourself, that's not productive. That's not going to help anything. All that's going to do is produce more failure. So instead of looking at bad, think, okay, what can I do to make that better? And once you ask yourself that question, then your brain is going to start trying to come up with an answer or a reply. right? When we ask ourselves a question, then we're going to try to... your brain is really powerful, so asking yourself those questions is extremely important. Once you do that, then you'll be able to find the solutions to your problems. Okay? Now, that's the first thing I wanted to cover. Now, the other thing, when you're telling yourself something's hard, okay? Like, say you're trying to do the scale, like that, right? Anything, even a piece. If you say it's just your first piece and you wanted to do something, or it could be you've done a whole bunch of pieces, and this is like some intense level piece, you know? Like you're playing, like, I don't know, like, you're just going, and then, you know, you're just going intense or something, I don't know. You're just really putting yourself into the piece, and it's like you're just pushing yourself to that edge, and you're like, oh, this is so hard, why, oh, wow, I'm doing this, it's so hard, but I'm doing it. Does that make you play better? No. It's sort of like telling yourself, oh yeah, I'm good, because I can play hard things. But that doesn't actually make you good, it just makes you kind of feel better about yourself, which is fine. But the real thing is what do people see skill in? They see skill in people that can make something hard look easy. So, what do we want to be trying to make it look like, or how do we want it to be for us? We want it to be easy. We want it to be like, that's no effort for me, that's easy. So how do we do that? Any thoughts? Well, here's my idea for this. What you do is, while you're playing the piece, whatever you're doing, tell yourself in your brain, this is easy, play it 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 easy. Just over and over and over again. This is easy, this is easy, this is so easy. And what you'll do is you'll actually convince yourself. You will convince yourself that what you're doing is easy. And what's going to happen? If you feel like it's easy and your brain is thinking that it's easy and you're convinced that it's easy, you're going to play it like it's easy, and you'll find ways to do the piece so that it's easy. It's that simple. So do you see how powerful this is? You tell yourself something enough, you're going to believe it. Your body's going to try to find ways to do it, subconsciously even, to just make it easier for you, to make it easy. If you're telling yourself this is hard, this is hard, this is hard, what's going to happen? You're going to try to find ways, subconsciously maybe, to make it look hard, to make it feel hard, to make it live up to what you're telling yourself it is. It's all just a perception or a state of mind. What is hard? Hard is what you believe is hard, right? A concert pianist and someone who just started piano a day ago are going to think two different things are hard, right? A concert pianist isn't going to think something's hard. A really good concert pianist won't think anything's hard. Notice how they just have that, they have that thing about them. They just get up on stage and they just, they play that. Do you know why? Because they know that secret. They know that it's not about thinking about how hard it is, it's easy. Because if you think about how hard it is, it's just going to intimidate you more. It's going to tense you up. So, to play things easier, to play better, I know it sounds really simple, but seriously, that's the biggest key, is to tell yourself, this is easy, play it easy. Just let it roll off. Just, this is easy, this is easy, this is easy, this is easy. I've done that before. I was playing some piece, I can't remember, I think it was the Polonaise in A-flat major, and then I also did it with the Minute Waltz. I think I was doing a performance, I think I was playing for like 150 people or something. And I just was telling myself, this is easy, this is easy, this is easy. And when I finished, I got up and I had about a standing ovation for the whole room was standing up, clapping away. It didn't seem to stop. Like, I wanted them to stop clapping because it was starting to feel awkward. I didn't know what to do. But after about 2 minutes or so, they finally stopped. Anyway, it just felt like it went on forever. But anyway, then when people were coming up to me after, they told me stuff like, oh, you made it look so easy, how do you do that? Or, wow, you really have command over the keyboard, it looks like it was bending to your will. Or, oh, that looked like you could have done that in your sleep. I was getting comments like that. And that's when I sort of knew that I had stumbled upon something that was valuable. Because I sort of taught this to myself. I just, the whole concept to me came to me, sort of. And when I told myself this is easy, it's because I was playing a piece that was hard, and I'm like, ah! And I remembered that thing when you're in a place that's really hot and you want to feel cooler, just tell yourself that it's really cold and I'm really cold and I'm in the Antarctic, and it will make you feel a little bit cooler and you won't feel as hot, mentally anyway. So that is a really, really, really good way to loosen up and to relax your mind. You need to relax your mind more than you need to relax your body, because if you can relax your mind will relax your body for you. Okay? Now it's important to get a good habit of how to play the piano, right? Properly, to play into the piano with good, whatever you want to call it, like mechanisms, engineering, like good, using gravity, using inertia the right way. So that's something that can be looked into, but you need to couple that with a mental relaxation where you're allowing your mind to see stuff for how you want it to see it, right? You don't want to, you just look at it in truth. Is this going to be too hard? Is this not? I mean, you want to start small and work your way up. You don't want to just go for the big pieces yet. But when you're doing those small little pieces, don't tell yourself, this is so hard, this is so hard. Tell yourself, this is easy. This is easy. I know this. This is easy. Do those things. You say it over and over and over again, you'll convince your body, you'll convince yourself, you'll convince your subconscious even, and you'll believe it. And it'll show in your playing and people will see it, and then people will be attracted to that, because then that looks like you have skill. So even if you're playing something right at the top of your level, if you make it look like it's easy for you, and you know that you could never play anything higher than that right now, people will be like, if this is easy for them, maybe they can play harder stuff too. Ooh. So it sort of intrigues your audience and keeps them guessing to see how good you really are. So you'll impress more people than if you try to make it look really hard. You kind of get what I'm talking about? Okay, so that's the first part, or the first and the second part. Now let's go to the next part. One of the next parts for relaxing your mind. Now this sort of has to do with the piano, but at the same time, it's a perspective of your mind itself too. Now say you have two groups of notes. So you have to do, and that's that. So you have one of two ways to look at this. You can either think, okay, I'm going to hit this chord, and then I'm going to hit this chord. So it's two motions. One motion, two motion. Okay, so you're probably wondering, okay, what's the other option here? There's two chords, what are we going to do? Well, we could put them together. Is there a way that we could make those two motions one motion? See if we can get more. It's like killing two birds with one stone. Can we get two things done with one motion? So watch this. Like that. I'm a bit rusty here, but so say you're coming low, and in one motion, it's like I'm just doing this. In one motion, I'm getting two things done. I'm playing, and as I come up, so I'm coming down and then up. And I'm grouping, so as I come down and up, I'm doing two things in one, like this. Just one motion does two things. And concert pianists, I've watched like some of them on YouTube, like the old recordings, I'm just like, whoa, because they're doing sometimes, I've seen them do like 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 things at one time with one motion. And it's all these really small little motions. So try to think of combining as many motions as you can into smaller, like instead of having a whole bunch of small little groups of motions that you're going to do, try to group the small ones that are similar that you can fit together into bigger clumps so that you have less motions. And what that'll do is it'll relax the way you're playing and things will come smoother to you. So why I put this in the, thinking about it is because it is about thinking. It's about how do you perceive these notes? Do you perceive them as single things, or do you perceive them as things that can be connected together? After all, this is a piece that is a whole bunch of notes strung together to make music, is it not? So it's not against natural music feeling to want to be able to connect those notes. There's no reason, unless it's specifically in the music that says, no, you must not connect these, but if it's under a phrase, there's no reason you couldn't. So when you get to the final stage of this, is that playing the piano becomes one big motion. It's nothing to do with the notes anymore. Because if you look at this piano doesn't move, does it? No. It's not going to start playing Moonlight Sonata by itself. Where is Moonlight Sonata? It's here and here. And my whole body, basically. So what I'm basically saying is that all the Moonlight Sonata is, what is it? It's just little electronic signals stored in a file in my brain that, maybe it's like the Moonlight Sonata program file. When I load that to my brain, then it tells me all the motions. So it's the motions that do it. So that means that, what could I do? Could I maybe play the Moonlight Sonata with that intention that it's in my body and I'm just putting it into the keys? Now that's a concept that could take a while to stew and really understand what I'm talking about. You want to play fluidly into the piano. Don't let the piano play you. Okay? You play the piano does not play you. Okay? The music comes from here. I don't see the piano making any music by itself, do you? Come on, piano. If you can make music by yourself, let me know. You can't. The music comes from us. It comes from us. Okay? It comes from inside you. When you play a piece, that's why it says you play the piece, not the piano plays the piece. So this sounds very rudimentary, doesn't it? It sounds like, okay, well that's obvious, but do you really believe what I'm saying to your core? Or does part of you feel like you have to be glued to the keys of the piano and play those notes in that specific order, otherwise you are bad? If you have that mentality, like you have to stay there and you don't feel free and you feel locked up, who's the slave? Is it the piano the slave or are you the slave? The piano serves me. Okay? I play the piano does what I want it to do. You have to be the boss of the piano. Okay? That's what you gotta do. You gotta take command of this thing and just make it your own. Take your music, and your piece is the sum movements of your arms and fingers that just so happen to land on the specific spaces that are lined out on this piano. That's it. It's just a space. It's a space in anywhere. And then there's time spaces. There's spaces in, 3 dimensions, and then there's spaces in the 4th dimension, which is time. If you didn't know that, the 4th dimension is time. So we're basically just playing in time and in dimensions, but it's all to do with our arms, our body. So my back motion, my shoulder motion, is just as much a part of Moonlight Sonata as my finger. Okay? That's just as much a part, because it contributes to the piece. Without my shoulder, what would happen to my arm? It would fall off. There's ways that you can play into the piano with your shoulders, with your back, with your arms, that will actually give the piano a different sound than if you just play like this. Okay? It's all good and fine to play with your fingers, but don't forget that there's other parts that you can take control of and take advantage of. Those are all great things you can do. So combining motions, letting the piano come out, like letting the music come out of your body and into the piano. That's great. So try to question all those things that you think you know. Always push the boundaries, always ask why, or try to see past what is right in front of you, because there's always more than what you see. Okay? Okay, so that's that part. What I want to talk about next is the connection between our brain to our fingers. Now, as you guys probably know, there's synapses in our brain. And the more we use, technically, we were born, I think, with something like, 500 trillion or something like that. 500 trillion synapses in our brain. And by the time we reach middle age, it dwindles down to like 500 million or something. Somewhere along those lines. So when we're really young, we have all this potential to, like, if we develop this skill or that skill, and that synapses is, used to do this or that or that or that. So you can use them all up. And then as we don't use those ones that are just left there, they die away, die away, die away. So that's why as people get like really old into their 80s, they're sort of stuck in their ways and they're not open to learning new things. It's because the capacity to learn is much harder because they don't have as many synapses left, or maybe they don't have any to do. So they would have to reroute a synapse and give it a new task or whatever. I'm not really an expert on the brain, but I do know a little bit. Not very much though. I'm not a doctor per se. But basically, if the younger we learn, the more we're going to be able to tune our brain up, and it will help. Now what happens is when we use our fingers, if our brain basically sends an electronic pulse to play this finger here, right? What's going to happen is if you haven't developed that synapses or that, whatever, that little, I guess what would you want to call it, like a circuit, right? If you're talking about computers, like that circuit to go down there, it won't be a very strong thing and it'll be sort of lost. And what'll happen is actually all the muscles will actually get tense instead of one being tense and pulling, and then the others around that one being able to relax. So you get kind of like this motion. Like if you try to do one finger here, you might do this. It's because they're both tensing up and you don't have as much control. So think of it like this. Okay, think that you are in one city and you're trying to get a message to another city, okay? And there's no cars at this time. Well, actually there are cars, but let's just say that there's no roads going to that city. So obviously off-roading is not possible. Say it's like, the Amazon. There's swamps and whatever. It just, even a big truck would just get stuck with like roots and trees and whatever. So they have to send a little explorer guy, a scout or whatever, and he's like a messenger. He carries the message, and he gets through the jungle, and by the time he gets to the other end, his hair is all like, and he's covered with dirt, and he's like tired, and he's starving, and he's dehydrated, and he lost his message. It just flew into the river, and a snake ate it or something. Because snakes eat messages. They just love paper. Anyway. But he gets to the other side, and then they're like, okay, so what was the message, man? What was it? And he's just like, I don't know. It was move this, there, or something like that. And he gets it a little bit wrong. He remembers a little bit, but he doesn't know exactly what it was. It's not a very clear direction. So, what happens? It's like you're trying to send a signal to something, and it doesn't quite get there the way you sent it out. That's why people get frustrated. They're like, why aren't my fingers listening to me? They're not doing what I want them to do. It's because you still have that Amazon jungle thing in between your fingers and your brain. So how do you get that to be cleared? Well, think of it this way. As you send more messengers, they always follow the same path maybe, and they start to make a trail and the vegetation goes away because people are always walking down it. And then they think, hey, well, this is a pretty well-used trail. Why don't we just 4x4 it now because the vegetation's gone. So they go, and then little tire tracks start forming. And the information's getting there a little bit faster and a little bit more accurately because they're not as tired and they're not getting their directions eaten by snakes. So they get there and then, look, okay, so now we've got all this road. Maybe, hey, it's being used a lot. Why don't we do so there can be two-way traffic instead of having to pull over and it being slowing? So then they turn it into a 2-lane highway and they pave it, and then you see a bulldozer going over and it's like, and they're going paving it, making it all nice, and then pretty soon things are just zooming back and forth. But then more traffic is happening, so you can do more things. You can split your hand up into 2 different things. So they make it a 4-lane highway, and then a 6-lane highway. And, they've got barriers now, so no animals can get in the way. And it just, boom, lots of traffic, lots of flow. There's like 6 lanes. So you're able to send lots of information, lots and lots of information, steadily, quickly, accurately. And then eventually, basically exactly whatever thought you have in your brain, your finger will go and it'll do it to the key, and it will take no effort at all. It'll just be bam, right there. And that's what repetition does. That's what practice does. It builds that highway, it builds that road, okay? Now, when you're doing fingering in your pieces, it's important to do the same fingering every single time, because what happens is fingering is sort of like creating that road. So if you always have if you change your fingering all the time, it's like you're going to be building roads all over the place, and you'll never get one really good road. It's sort of like going down a road and then getting to the spot where, oh, I don't know what my fingering is. You have all these choices, so it branches out, and so every time you get to that spot you have to think, even if it is subconsciously, then you have to choose a way, and then it just leads back to the same road again. So it doesn't make a difference, it's just pointless. So you want one straight road going down, so you pick one set fingering. So I'd advise you to figure out what fingering you want to use. Usually you use whatever fits under your hand, so there's as little movement with your hand as possible. So you just blah, 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 blah. You're just going to do whatever comes naturally under your hand, and there's as little movement as possible. Okay? So it's comfortable and it's easy, basically. There's no real set rule for it. It's just whatever's easy and whatever. Yeah, so that's about it. You use the same fingering, and that's my lesson on relaxing your mind and to do with your mind and mental aspects of piano. Thanks for watching. So, take care, guys.